Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a good week. Last week we talked about basically how to decide which tier 9s / tier 10s when they come out are going to be the best to craft free to play. So there was a lot of different factors when we talked about that in terms of what's the most profitable, which one sells for the most gems in legendary, which one's best in slot, which one uses the least tier 3 resources, which one rounds differently when enchanted fully. Like, there's so many different elements to figure out, okay, what are the best things to be crafting. But today I want to talk about a totally different thing that we could be crafting that I don't talk about very often. And I think for me, I'm actually really considering completely switching over to crafting enchantments instead of only items. When I think about it long term, eventually there's going to be enough pack items that are released with secondary stats and more best in slot items and that sort of thing, that ultimately I think the free to play items will be a lot less profitable, because they're not going to be the best ones that you can craft for that slot, and so people are going to be willing to pay a lot less for them than something else, right? And so I've been thinking, okay, what other options do I have? If I was to only craft enchantments, does that make sense? Could it work? Is it still profitable? That sort of thing. And the other thing is that there's always going to be a demand for enchantments. The highest tier of enchant will always be valuable, and there's no enchantments that free-to-play players can't craft. So it almost makes sense that long term, once like tier 10 comes out and there's new pack items and all that kind of stuff, that the free-to-play items might not be the most profitable, but enchantments will continue to be in high demand because people will still need them for their heroes. So it's kind of been something I've been wondering. So let's take a look at enchantments. So as you can see, I can't craft these items. I can't craft the runestones. So you're going to have to buy them from market. Generally, the chiseled runestones, which you need for all the tier 9 enchants, right now is like 530 to 540k. 2 of the Chronos crystals, those sell for 60k each right now. So if you add 120k to 530k, that's 650, and if you're only getting 700k out of it, essentially you're only making 50k. So profit per item is really low, but value for the more rare crafts like the legendaries and the epics and stuff is probably going to be higher than the average tier 9 item, as well as what you need to craft it, like 159 compared to these that are like 195 or 259. Like, you're able to craft enchantments a lot faster, and the rare crafts are more valuable. So I think it almost makes sense. And if you think about it, like, let's jump into market and look at the prices really quick. Okay, so I looked at just the spirits and just the legendaries, and these are the prices for them right now. And a lot of the legendaries that I craft for tier 9 normal or tier 9 legendary items for the free to plays are half or less than this many gems, like 50 to 70 gems type of thing, and these ones are still up there. So let's look at the elements instead, and these are very similar price actually. So it's cool because there's so much flexibility in what resources are used that you can really look at all these and figure out which ones work the best with the type of resources that you want to be using. So let's look back at the crafts themselves and see which ones we would be using. All right, so I found 4 of them that would work. So there's 2 with the red tier 3 resources and 2 with the blue. They all use different types of resources. So this would work in like a normal 4 item rotation. I haven't actually checked prices, but I just want to show you an example of what that would look like. You would be crafting these instead. So maybe I would only be making 50 to 100k profit per item if I'm needing to buy all of the runestones for these things. There's potential that I would be making more money than crafting the tier 9s if the profit margin is only double that, but I'm able to make these faster and I'm able to make more gems from the rare crafts anyways. The last thing that I need to consider in all of this, if I were to legitimately think about switching over, is that my Ascensions, I've got a lot of Ascensions in items, and if you look down at the bottom, I have basically no Ascensions in spirits and elements. Well, I have 0. So in order for me to actually craft these effectively, I'd essentially need to get 35 stars in each of them so that my rarity chance is higher, my multi-craft chance is up there, and I'd be able to make more money out of them. So that's a big consideration too, is that I've ascended so much for the item side and very little for the enchantment side. So making that huge switch over would be a massive commitment. I could use those Ascension shards to get all of these other types of items up to 15 stars so that discounting them is 10% less and I'm able to make more money from sales. So maybe that doesn't make so much sense. All right, so this is another example of a possibility of what people could craft. And I think even so with lower level players that aren't just crafting tier 9s, like something like this is really profitable because the runestones are actually cheaper than the tier 4 runestones because there's just a lot less demand for them. So I think the profit on these is still really good, and it's easier to craft at a lower level, and you don't need any tier 3 resources. So really all I would need is 8 bins out total. I could have everything else in energy, so I could still have 7,200 energy or something like that, and basically just be crafting these, still be making a good profit margin. So I think even crafting tier 7 enchants is a possibility as well for consistent income without having to worry about tier 3 resources and all the other stuff. Not that I would switch over at this point in time, but I'm just saying that that is a possibility for more profitable crafting, because a lot of people have asked me, what do you think about crafting elements and spirits, enchantments, instead of items? Like, isn't that viable? Is that good? And I think it is good. There's a lot of stock in it, but I think the biggest determining factor is that I would rather have the majority of these lines at 15 stars for sales rather than getting 35 stars in each of those. But then again, long term as a free-to-play player, I think honestly elements and spirits might be more profitable because there's always going to be demand for them. And honestly, when tier 10s come out, the demand for the legendaries of the tier 9 enchants is going to go way up because there's this slew of new items that need to be re-enchanted to put on the heroes to get more best in slot and to, you know, fully enchant all your tier 9 or tier 10 items for your heroes. So the demand for them is going to be huge, and everyone's just going to be crafting tier 10 items when it comes out. So honestly, there might be a huge spike in price for them. So anyway, it's just a big consideration, something people have asked me about a lot and something I wanted to speak to. So hope that makes sense. Hope you guys learned something. If you have questions, as always, please feel free to let me know and I'll do my best to help you out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I will talk to you soon. Peace out.